高点禅师、甜点禅师、菜点禅师各位学长大家好，阿弥咱阿弥是咱的菜点禅师，要甲咱慈悲示导，咱点禅师要甲咱慈悲示导是轮回的领地。Master John and Master Tian and Master Chai and all Taoists, good evening. Tonight, our Master Chai will once again provide us with her compassionate guidance about the awareness of reincarnation. 咱现在来邀请咱的蔡点禅师给咱慈悲示导。Now let us invite our Master Chai for her compassionate guidance.
各位早晨好，阿弥。
Good evening, everybody.
阿弥。
時間咧過啊，年緊哦，最近又過幾啊禮拜，安尼飛日就過去咯。
So time passes so fast. It's been 2 weeks, and time has passed without us knowing it.
那麼有下咧頭先感謝天文書記，感謝祖師皇族，感謝師尊師表大德，感謝老前人甲各位點陳師祖弟栽培。有法今仔有這個機會，跟你家甲各位道親做伙學習。
So thank you to Heaven's grace and to teachers' virtue. Thank you to our 師尊 and 師母 and to our 老前人 and 前人 and also for the Tian Transis. And thank you also for everyone tonight who are attending our Zoom meeting for giving me tonight this opportunity to make this discussion again.
有法今仔日要講的是，咱對輪迴應該要有一個認識，有一個知識。
So tonight, what we are going to discuss is the awareness of reincarnation.
那麼輪迴這兩字吼，對咱東方的人來說吼，真正阮的人吼，真正識嘅一個字。不過對唔是東方人來說的，這個輪迴的可能就甲唔是遐尼了解。
So tonight we are going to discuss about reincarnation, and reincarnation in English may be metamorphosis or reincarnation. This question about reincarnation is quite familiar with the people from the eastern side of the world, but for the other parts of the world, it is something that needs to be discussed so that everybody may know what reincarnation is all about.
雖然菲律賓是咧東方世界內底啦，不過菲律賓吼對輪迴吼較無安尼遐尼有認識。因菲律賓吼文化這個宗教是受到西方的影響，認為講人死了就通結束啦。
But in the Philippines, even though we are in the eastern side of the world, in the Philippines we still are questioning about reincarnation. Why is that so? Because the Philippines is greatly influenced by Western culture and Western religions, and which thinks that when a person dies, everything is over.
實際上咧，唔是安尼。咱看下一張迄個投影片，第個頂世紀20世紀的時陣咧，70年代的時陣喺西方的所在，包括科學家甲心理醫生譬如說 Brand Beats 這幾個人咧，因伫治療迄寡精神上有精彩的病人的時陣，發覺講經過催眠治療心理疾病的迄個疾病的患者的時陣，發覺西方科學的人說講人死以後就無人攏無這個說法是無正確的。
So in the 70s, some well-known scientists and psychiatrists such as Brian Weiss found out through the use of hypnotherapy on treating mentally ill patients, and has proved that the Western belief which states that when a person dies, he will just disappear, and it is not correct.
真侪人咧，伊是伫伊的记忆内底，还是讲伊的迄个潜意識內底咧，有過去世的迄個記憶存在。
Because many of his patients can still recall memories of their past lives.
有真侪人，有真侪人对过去世记忆存在伫个伊个记忆，还是伫伊个潜意识 （subconscious） 内底。
Some people can still remember or have stored memory in their subconscious memory about their past lives.
那科学家就安尼证明讲，轮回确实存在。所以伫个迄个 Discovery 即个频道内面有一个 video，用中文翻译叫做震惊世界纪录片，科学家证明轮回的事实。即个 video 咧，不加长，等下咱开班结束的时阵，会甲伊铺点在咱的迄个总数的 group 内底，咱大家会做你去看。
So scientists have proven that the fact of reincarnation. On Discovery Channel, there is a documentary entitled Documentary That Shocked the World, the fact that scientists prove of reincarnation. We can watch this documentary from the YouTube channel, and after our lecture, we will be posting the link of this video on our messenger page.
所以西方呢是咧顶世纪在豆豆接受这个轮回这个观念，下一个投影片。但是咱东方呢，伫咱中国呢，也是讲其他东方。下一个投影片，伫东方世界大部分的人呢，对讲这个灵魂还是袂消灭的，也是讲对讲这个出世，也是讲对这个前世今生的这款的说法呢，拢真相信，应该怀疑。
So in the Eastern world, there were so many people always believe in reincarnation, and there were always stories or movies about past lives or future life, and there were so many well-known films that were made in connection with the incarnation.
几千年来咱中国的中国人的祖先。第一摆还佫无电视机、无收音机的时阵呢，食饭饱，大家踮咧迄个院子里讲故事迄个听孙仔听，较讲嘛是讲有轮回报应因果是袂甲咱骗的，拢讲即款的故事。所以摆古早的册像迄个古典小说啦，什么《三国演义》啦、《水浒传》啦、《红楼梦》啦，是讲迄个《儒林外史》拢有讲到即款轮回。
So during the olden times, when there was still no television or movies for people or children to watch, parents will always tell their children stories mostly about reincarnation. They will always tell stories about cause and effect, and stories about past lives. And also there were so many books written about reincarnation and past lives.
咱中国定讲有七世夫妻，翁仔某做七世的翁仔某，嘛讲恁猫有几条，有9条命，即款的拢是中国人也是讲日本人啊、韩国人、越南人，伊拢有即款的观念。比如这七世夫妻内底，讲梁山伯、祝英台。过身以后呢，变做蝴蝶，这嘛是种迄个轮回。
So especially about there were books about romance, like the Seven Generation of Husbands and Wife, and the Strange Story of 9 Lives of Cats, and also the ancients would also tell stories to their descendants in the courtyard after meals about the stories of reincarnation, and there were also love stories, which also can be related to reincarnation, like the book which entitled Liang San Po and Tu Ying Tai, where when they both died, they both turned into butterflies.
那么下一个投影片第一咱拄仔讲这个，可能咱会想讲这个是故事性的故事，就讲是个故事，但是并且呢，咱中国有一个真有名的迄个文学家，咱可能有在座老师捌听过伊的名，叫做苏东坡。
So when we talk about these stories, we may all think that they were just stories. But there is this story about Su Tongpo that also tells about reincarnation.
咱大家会听到讲苏东坡这个名咧，道真可能是讲这足出名一个歌星邓丽君吼，捌将伊的迄个有名的诗甲有名的词，甲唱做流行歌吼，也是听讲不当内面讲师咧讲专队讲迄个讲迄个骄傲的时阵，也是讲迄个笑客的时阵，讲到迄个。八风吹不动，一屁弹过江，也是说讲迄个佛印看苏东坡敢若佛嘞，苏东坡看佛印敢若牛屎嘞，即款的笑话。
So there were also when we may also think that Su Tongpo was just a well-known person, but there were so many stories that talks about reincarnation from Su Tongpo, and there were also stories. There we can also see a very famous singer, Teresa Teng, who sings songs from made from the lyrics made by Su Tongpo from his poems. And also there were stories about pride and funny stories entitled The 8 Winds That Can't Move You, But One Fart Can Bring You Across the River. And another story, Buddha and the Pao Dunk.
真正苏东坡咧，伊本来的名叫做苏轼，伊是中国历史上一个真有名的人物，嘛是中国文学内底，因讲伊 one of the top 10。前10名内底，几千年的中国文学内底咧，苏东坡、苏轼差不多是10名内啦，所以伊毋是普通的人。
So Su Tongpo, the original name of Su Tongpo is Su Shi. He was a very popular person. He was one of the top 10 most popular person in China during his time.
因三个爸仔就是因老爸吼，甲伊小弟吼3个人就是唐朝、宋朝8个文学家内面的3个而且伊嘛是一个书法家、画家、政治家、甲水利工程师嘛是一个真有志者的人吼。伫咧任何一个专业，伊拢是有伊的地位，但是参像苏东坡遮尔一个杰出的人物，遐尔 outstanding 的人咧。伊的人生的路非常的困难，非常的歹行。
So there were 8 great literary writers during the time from the Tang Dynasty until the Song Dynasty, and from all those 8 great writers, 3 of them come from the family of Su Tongpo, and he was also a great calligrapher, a good painter, a politician, and a water conservancy engineer. He was also a great gourmet too. But he was, even though that he was an important personality in all the professions, but then for such an outstanding person, his life journey was full of hardships and obstacles.
这个遐尼老的人咧，伊路应该人生应该真正好行嘛。不过遮尼老的人咧，伊的路特别歹行。伊去考政府会考科举的时阵呢，本来应该第1名，但是主考官咧，迄个欧阳修就是讲，伊是伊的学生，有着骗迄个嫌疑，骗讲伊家己的人咧，比如讲第2名，伊头一个困难就是安尼咯，头一个拄着困难就是安尼咯。
So let's talk about the first difficulty or hardship that he has faced during his lifetime. By the time when he took the imperial exam, the article of Su Tongpo should have been gotten the first ranking. But the chief examiner mistakenly thought that Su Tongpo's work was written by one of his favorite students. So since the examiner thought it was written by his student, and he did not want people to mistake him to be having favoritism for his own student, so he just rated the article as the second best.
本来应该第一名变到第二名，头一个困难咯。过来第二个困难咧吼，做官以后咧，伊的文章咧，伫规个中国吼，真有影响。伊的粉丝，咱不要讲粉丝啦，伊的粉丝特别多。
So now let us talk about the second difficulty that he had experienced. That after he becoming a government official, his articles played a very important role in the society, and he had a huge influence throughout the country. And in that time, we can say that he had so many fans looking at his articles.
伊讲的话会当影响规中国的读册的人嘛，所以影响力真大。
So the books or the articles that he wrote during that time can greatly influence the whole society or the whole country.
中国的时阵拄着吼，迄个条地咧有一个变化叫做王安石变法。
But during that time, there was a revolution named the Wang Anshi Revolution.
伊一寡即王安石的变法内面有一寡迄个政见，有一寡改革咧吼，改革咧。苏东坡吼，认为无啥哈啦，就写一寡文章吼，小讲几句话讲，这无啥哈。
But during that revolution, Su Tongpo thought that some of the political reforms or articles written about the revolution were inappropriate. So he in turn wrote some articles and stating that the revolution is having inappropriate reform policies.
伊说无甲哈咧，伊个对伊的人，个 follower 就讲无啥哈，所以变成讲对迄个政府造成一寡阻碍，有一寡比较敢若反对派，伊毋是反对派，但是伊讲的话会造成人对即个 revolution 有意见啦。所以我当权的人咧，就想办法，甲伊刷，对迄个城市内底刷去到离较远的啦，甲莫甲迄个 central government 受 close 安尼，伊就袂去受过批评迄个中央政府。
So because of his articles stating against what the central government wanted, and his followers also felt that Su Tongpo was correct, and so they also felt that the reform was inappropriate. So it had created some disagreement between the people and the central government. That is why the central government demoted Su Tongpo and he was sent away to the distant places.
到尾咧，佫有一摆咧，伊一首诗吼，叫人掠着毛边，讲伊是反对政府、反对皇帝，互掠去坐监坐几百工，差一点仔无性命，佫差一点仔因规家嘛是去互抄家。
So there was also a poem that Su Tongpo has made, which the government thought that he made it in order to talk against the government. So because of the poem, he was put in prison for more than for hundreds of days, and he and his family almost got killed during that time.
所以对一个应该是头一名的人咧，应该踮咧中央政府真有力的人咧，就互人刷到愈刷愈外口，对迄个中央政府刷到杭州，对杭州刷到黄州，刷到惠州，尾仔佫刷到黎州，就是咱即马咱所坐的海南岛。
So he was then sent away to places far away from the capital city, so that his articles would not have great effect on the people. He was sent to Hangzhou, to Huangzhou, to Huizhou, and lastly he was sent to the Hainan Islands.
伊规家人，伊的某囝就爱对伊安尼刷来刷去，流浪来流浪去。会用讲 本来应该富贵荣华、真好惹一个人咧，啊，规家咧对伊讲凄惨济寡。
So, since he was assigned to different places, his family during that time also had to follow him and was wandering from one place to another, enduring so much hardships along the way. His family should have been enjoying so much fame because of his high position, but because of the life of Sutongpo that he had to suffer during his lifetime, his family also suffered with him.
后来咧，苏东坡伊一世人有三段感情，每一段拢真正感动人，真正真心。伊毋是讲一个人娶三个某，毋是，毋是讲一摆娶三个某，毋是。伊吼娶一个某死一个某，娶两个某死两个某。第三迄个无正式娶尾啊嘛，平较早死。
So Sutongpo had 3 unforgettable love affairs during his lifetime. He was very loyal to his 3 wives, but when he married his first wife died. And when he married his second wife also died. That is why he had 3 marriages or 3 wives with him.
头一个某咧是姓王府啦，啊，甲伊缀伊10年，26岁过身，16岁看你26岁死咯。第二个某咧是头一个某的 cousin， 嘛甲苏东坡因共款拢是四川人，因拢四川人。为什么娶因某的迄个嫁帮小妹咧？因为头一个某有帮伊生囝咯，伊若阁娶。无三八的人检查即个后来即个某会苦度伊的囝，所以带因某的嫁帮小妹来做某，就为着讲惊因囝入去互苦度。
So Sutongpo married his first wife Wang Fu, but Wang Fu died at an early age. She had a son left behind, so Sutongpo married again, and during his second marriage, he married the cousin of Wang Fu, who is Wang Runzi. The reason why he married the cousin of his first wife is that he wanted his second wife to love his son as his first wife did, because since he is the cousin of his first wife, he will not mistreat the child.
即第二个某咧，读捌的字无偌济，字捌无几字啦，但是真有还家，啊，佫真有正做。伫个苏东坡上困难的时阵陪伊食上济苦。即个女的是伊足感恩的，头一个某伊足敬爱，第二某伊足感恩的。
So all Sutongpo and his 2 first wives came from Sichuan province. Wang Runzi, the second wife, did not have much education, but she was good at housekeeping and farming. And if Sutongpo had so much love for his wife, he was very thankful for his wife.
当你跟他听无？
我爸无声音嘛？
因当你跟他translate 无听到，无相信。
OK， 这阵有了吗？
有了，伊头一个某伊真敬爱，第二个某伊真正感恩，但是迄个第二个某咧。陪食真侪苦，但是因为受的教育捌的字捌无真侪，伊家己嘛惊讲苏东坡无迄个甲伊谈得来的人呐，无迄个交集好啦，所以就这第二个某就做主帮伊娶第三个，第三这个毋是某咯，就是讲侍妾咯，有看手里的。
The second wife of Sutongpo was the one who suffered the most when Su Tongpo was experiencing the lowest point in his life. When Su Tongpo had so much love for his first wife, he was very thankful for the second wife. The second wife was so worried that Su Tongpo did not have someone as intelligent as him who can talk to him. So she then decided to arrange a concubine for her husband.
这第三这个侍妾咱看下一页第三个侍妾这个人是真有名，你也真有名一个人王朝云。王朝云呢，伊是一个歌人，伊的歌声真正好听。苏东坡所写迄个词的歌咧，互伊唱出来的时阵特别好听，唱的人会哭，听的人嘛会哭，会感动人。伊唱歌唱到会感动人。所以是苏东坡感觉讲伊是伊的知己。
So for the third lady, Wang Chaoyun, she was Su Tongpo's concubine. She was a great singer, and her singing is vivid and ethereal, that whenever she sings, the singer and the listeners would all cry because of the song.
你了解苏东坡写什么啊？了解苏东坡内心的痛苦，你了解苏东坡写什么？
So, and Wang Chaoyun is the one who can understand the poems or the writings of Su Tongpo, that she can feel how sad or how much he was suffering, because Wang Chaoyun was Su Tongpo's confidant.
但是这三个人这么好的三个女的，这么好的三个某囝，拢比苏东坡较早过身。尾仔咧，甲伊送伊出山咧，干那伊三个囝送伊出山，因为某拢死了了。
All these men died earlier than Su Tongpo. He died at the age of 64, and it was only his 3 sons who buried him when he died.
上界讽刺的是讲伊要过身进前伊本来所受的冤枉，拢已经互人原谅啊，要互伊压转来行城，互伊重新做一个有政治力量的人皇帝要互伊转来啊。但是离开遐南岛无偌久，伊就过身啊。会当我转来做大官，进前无偌久，伊就过身啊。所以一世人大起大落非常的流浪，非常的痛苦。
So before his death, he was finally rehabilitated by the central government, and he was allowed to return to Beijing and to return to the political arena. But unfortunately, before he can go back to the central city, he passed away very shortly after leaving Hainan Island.
苏东坡一世人大起大落，流浪世界流浪规个中国流浪透透。但是咧，伊对人生、对国家、对老百姓，拢足热爱。所写的文章、所写的诗词会当讲是无人通赢过伊咯。
Su Tongpo's life was of ups and downs. He had traveled the whole of China. He had wandered from place to place and enduring so many hardships. But still he loves his life and he loves his country and also his people.
伊个对这个对佛家的道理有真正深的研究，会讲伊是迄个佛根甲佛缘拢真正深，真正高。
And he was a person who had in-depth study of Buddhism, and he has a very deep root in Buddhism.
所以会甲迄个和尚做好朋友啊，甲保佑的感情遐尔好。
That is why he had a very good relationship with his friend Fo Ye.
所以老母咧在生的时阵捌甲伊讲过，讲伊个诞生，伊拄啊无偌久的时阵诞生做无几个日的时阵有一届伊梦到一个起到一年头，毋过咧就一类歹去的和尚来引导讲，祝我大吉啊。
When her mother was still alive, once she told him that not long after she was pregnant with Sutongpo, she once dreamed of a handsome one-eyed blind monk who came and requested to stay for a night at their house.
到伊8、9岁，个囡仔8、9岁时阵吼，有一摆伊做梦，梦见讲伊家己前世人诶是一个和尚，即个和尚咧嘛是共款一日目睭无看。
And Sutongpo himself, when he was around 8 or 9 years old, he also had dreamed that he was a monk in his previous life. And the monk in his dream was also a person with only one eye.
有一摆咧，伊拄吼中央政府赶来杭州诶时阵咧，捌甲一个朋友做伙到迄个杭州咧，有一个湖叫做西湖，西湖边仔有一间庙寺叫做寿星寺。伊甲伊诶朋友说讲，我虽然头一摆来即个杭州西湖咧，不过我感觉我捌踮咧遮修行过呐。我感觉吼，我感觉吼，对即个咱行即个所在，行到迄个山长诶迄个山路咧，应该爱有92个石刻啦。
So when he arrived in Hangzhou and went to Shou-Sing Temple in the West Lake with his friend, he told his friend that although it was his first time to visit the temple, he felt that he had been cultivating in that temple for a long time before. And he also said that there should be 92 stone steps on the mountain road leading to the meditation hall.
头一摆来遮，我知影讲即个石刻有92刻，就足离间啊！伊诶朋友来算看卖，算，正经有影92刻。
So in order to prove his words, his friend really counted the stone steps, and he was so surprised that after counting, it was really as expected. And there were 92 stone steps leading to the meditation hall.
好，下一页。讲一摆咧，一摆就上尾后一摆叫知影着，讲有一摆咧，伊小弟，小弟足上好诶，伊小弟苏泽吼，三月顶尾吼，一间庙寺见面，伊小弟先到，小弟甲另外两个迄个和尚咧，拢总上迄个暗暝啊，上迄个前一暗嘛，拢做伙问着讲。因今仔日爱迎接一个和尚，迄个和尚叫做五界和尚。
So one time, the younger brother of Sutongpo and Sutongpo has made an appointment that they will meet at a certain temple. His younger brother and the two other eminent monks had the same dream a night before. After they reached the temple, they stayed there and had a dream, which says that today they are going to welcome a monk named Five Precept or Monk Wu Jie.
伊三人讲起来，感觉足奇怪啊！三人讲啊讲，感觉足奇怪吼。即两个和尚说讲，即个五戒和尚都已经坐过身50年啊，哪有可能今仔日互咱迎接？
So when the three of them were talking about their dreams, they were so surprised and felt so strange while talking about it. It is said that the monk Five Precept or Monk Wu Jie has been sitting in meditation and has passed away for 50 years. So how is it possible that he will come to visit us in this temple today?
结果伊讲吼，等无半人，敢若等着苏东坡来。
So as they,
苏东坡做49岁。
So as they were waiting for the monk in their dream to come visit them, nobody came, but the person who came to them was Sutongpo himself. And during that year, Sutongpo was exactly 49 years old.
注意听哦，五界和尚已经坐过身50年啊。 迄年咧，苏东坡来到遮已经49岁。
So let's listen very clearly that the monk the 5 precept monk has passed away in sitting meditation, and he has already passed away 50 years ago. And today, when they met Sutongpo, the man who came to the temple, Sutongpo is also 49 years old that year.
这两个有关系哦，大概40到有什么款的关系，咱想看卖吼。那么迄暗，因这4个人，苏东坡的小弟，甲迄两个和尚就坐遐开讲讲规暗，讲什么呢？迄讲五戒和尚伊的4人的故事。
So that night, the 4 of them, Sutongpo, his younger brother, and the 2 monks, were talking, and they were talking about the life of the monk named 5 precept, or monk Wu Jie.
过无偌久咧，苏东坡就写一首诗出来，这个首诗咧，敢若20字啊，拢总4句，每一句5字，所以20字啊。这个诗吼，看到甲伊普通写的诗拢无啥同哦。真正甜，真正正，伊普通写的诗拢真正attractive 啦。这首诗无 attractive， 真正平淡。但是这首诗咧，甲轮回有关系，也是伊的体悟的一首诗。
So after a short while, Sutongpo wrote a poem that is unlike what he has been writing. The poem was a kind of ordinary, but it was a self-revelation of Sutongpo, a poem that consists of only 20 words, 4 sentences with 5 words in each sentence.
这诗的名叫做《兰花诗》吼，一根不诗的名。头一句吼，伊说讲，我本修行人，伊讲就是苏东坡讲吼，我本来是一个和尚，我名呢叫做五戒。
So the poem was related to the reincarnation, and it was a poem of his realization. The title of the poem was Nan Hua Temple. The first sentence states that I am a cultivator.
发明五戒，这五戒咱大家知影吧？五戒吼，那唔知影，咱请咱迄个转山走力还是如续走力，甲咱大家回答一下。
不杀生，不偷盗，不邪淫，不妄疑，不饮酒。
好，就是无杀生，不偷窥，无犯色戒，无讲白贼话，无啉烧酒。这个咯。
So the first sentence of the poem was, I am a cultivator, which means that Sutongpo's previous life was a monk, and permanent it was 5 precepts. And do you know what the 5 precepts are? They are Sa, Tao, Ying, Wang, Jiu, abstaining from killing living beings, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, intoxication.
那么这个五戒和尚的虽然就你目睭无看的，但是对细汉一直到老到做，到过去以前拢足巧的，写的文章咯非常的出色，嘛是真够写文章，嘛有真正好的修行功夫，修甲真好。
So although this monk Wu Jie was a person with only one eye blind, but he was a person that was very, very smart since childhood. He was also good in writing and in cultivation.
修甲偌好咧，伊第二句说讲吼，我三世积精炼哦，3世积精炼。这3世无一定讲是这世啦，过去世个过去世，无一定。3世伫中文内面有时阵是讲真侪世，讲伊修道修行修真侪世啊。
So the second sentence can prove how good a cultivator he was. It says that I accumulated the true essence and refinement through the 3 lives. And when he says the 3 lives here, it doesn't mean only his present, past, and the past life. It may be any 3 lives in his previous lifetimes.
有一年的寒天时啊咧，吼，有一年寒天时啊落真大的雪，伊咧庙寺外口咧，伊发现着有一个吼，互人等咧遐的外地的迄个吼，迄个 baby infant， 即个 baby infant 是一个女的，即个五界下修咧，伊自卑心压起来。你想讲我即个囡仔若放在遮，伊毋知是女的，甲拖起来啦，要来看这是一个女的。若甲放在遮，去甲伊无人捡去的时阵，今仔日遐尼寒，雪遐尼深的，即个囡仔会寒死。所以就甲伊抱起来，抱起来，毋过袂用带转去个庙的市啊，迄个庙是下修的庙，毋是菜姑的庙，所以甲伊即个囡仔寄伫个附近吼，庙寺边仔附近的一个农夫的家内底，寄因饲。
So one winter season, this one-eyed blind monk saw an abandoned baby infant girl outside the temple. And with his compassionate heart, he thought that if we will not take care of the baby will just die of the winter cold. So he took the baby girl, and because he cannot raise the baby girl inside the house of the monks, he just brought the baby girl to the nearby farmer's house and asked the farmers to take care of the baby infant.
过一段点钟就摕钱哦，即个农夫家吼，别来伊有迄个钱通甲即个囡仔饲大汉，佮甲即个囡仔甲号一个名叫做红莲。
So from time to time, the monk will just give money to the farmers in order for them to take care of the baby girl. And he named the baby girl Hong Lian, which means red lotus.
那安尼吼，时间咧过足紧诶，安不知不觉经过12年啊。即一天吼，伊佫来到即个农夫即个家吼，佫要摕钱哦，即个农夫。
So in a blink of an eye, 16 years has passed, and the monk come again to the farm to give money to the farmers for raising the girl.
即个女的啊，下一页，即个女的吼，伊伫咧想讲啊，我迄个叫我的名，甲我饲大汉，迄个人我真然毋捌看过，足好奇的，就想要感恩呢，要来偷偷看即个，看会当拄着即个甲伊捡转来饲的即个下手什么款，饲到什么款哦。那么刚好即个五界去看到即个女的咯，本来拢毋捌看过，但是就是即个五界第一讲。伊若你个女的若一摆起即个念头是拄袂着啦，就是个女的想要看看到底是啥物人救伊的命哦，等下走出来看，才有五界看到即个女的，哇，心都蛮带水。
So during that time, Hong Lian also had an idea that she wanted to meet and see the person who had saved her 16 years ago, since she had never saw the monk in person. And coincidentally, the monk that day came to their house, and they had the opportunity to she had an opportunity that the monk Wu Jie saw the beautiful Hong Lian that day.
所以甲即个吼，伊一个念头，即个下手一个念头差错了，看即个女的心都遐蛮带水哦。对于即个红莲哦，有一个，当然即个女也是介意啦，甲即个红莲主要有迄个私情，所以犯着即个色戒。
And because of a wrong decision made in a moment of weakness, he secretly had an affair with Red Lotus, and thus committed lust.
所以其中第3句就写讲，中间一念失。我修行中呢，我有一个念头唔对咯，做唔对代志了。
So that brings him to write his third sentence, which says that a momentary slip of a serious consequence, a consequence to be suffered for later.
好了吧？
好，
咱有一句话叫做“一失足成千古恨，再回首已百年身”。讲一个人啦， 行着路咯，就千古恨，啊，搁再回头咧，就百年的辛苦咯。
So there was a saying that once we make a wrong step in our life, we will have to suffer for 1,000 years. And when we are trying to go back to correct our mistake, we will need to spend 100 years in order to correct it.
这个五戒有一个师兄叫做明悟，明悟五戒犯戒的代志去互这个明悟看破。就甲即个迷糊，就甲我甲伊说讲，咱就是修道人，你哪会失足？你怎么可以失足做毋着代志？安尼甲伊讲两句尔，即个五戒真歹势，真见效。我讲破时，你怎啊当下咧，怎啊坐，怎啊无好吸，甲吸无禁开无好吸，怎啊家己禁开，怎啊过身怎啊走去个投胎啊？
So what Monk Wu Jie has done with Hong Lian was discovered by his senior fellow cultivator named Ming Wu. Ming Wu discovered that the monk Wu Jie had violated the precepts, so he was questioning the monk why he committed such mistake. And because of shamefulness that somebody knew already about his mistake, Monk Wu Jie sat down and deliberately stopped breathing, and she passed away and was reincarnated again.
明有意见讲这个五戒，伊若是无法的无去甲伊成全，无去甲救的时阵伊后一世可能会放刀会放忽，若放刀放忽的时阵就会坠落去三恶道，永远都无出头的日子。 所以伊也赶紧家己共款坐着，无好吸，就对伊去咯，对伊要对五戒去投胎。
So Ming Wu, his senior fellow cultivator, foresees that if ever the monk will be born again, he might slander the Tao and he might slander Buddha in his next life. If this is the case, then Wu Jie may be doomed and may go down to the 6 realms of reincarnation. So he hurriedly sat down and held his breath also and stopped breathing and passed away, and he was also reincarnated in order to follow Monk Wu.
到这世咧，到苏东坡这世咧，五戒就变出世苏东坡。那么明悟咧，就是出世苏东坡的。 佛门的好朋友，佛印。
So during the new life, during the new lifetime, Monk Wu Jie becomes Su Tongpo, and his friend Ming Wu, who was Su Tongpo's good friend, becomes Su Tongpo's good friend, the Zen master Fo Yin.
那苏东坡甲佛印定咧讲一寡。 有教的道理啊，互相嘛常常会开玩笑啊，互相宣传。
So we can see stories about Su Tongpo and Fo Yin that they were good friends and they always have stories, funny stories, talking about each other.
那么第4句最后一句咧，做一个结语啊，我即摆哪会遐尔咧，遐尔人生哪会遐尔痛苦，遐尔侪波折，就是因为我头前。 做毋着代志，有念头毋对，搁有失足，所以我即摆才会安尼受持100年前，受到规即世人同谴责，谴责就是比如讲受罪啦，是讲处罚啦。
So because of what they have done, of the mistake done by Su Tongpo. His life as a human during the next the reincarnated life would be a life of being condemned for 100 years. The so-called suffering 100 years of condemnation is a word for sin, referring to human affairs.
既然个投胎做人的，就是另外一个辛苦叫做百年生嘛，所以讲受持百年祈求，即世人的迄个触发，即世人的欠债，即个欠利就是讲啊，伊即个在即个人间呢，伊虽然有遐尼多、遐尼悬的迄个才华，但是经拄着遐尼多政治的风波，从来都毋捌得意过，从来都毋捌教育意过，佮差一点嘛，因为死。个无性命。
So that it says that because of the mistake that one has done, they have to be suffering for 100 years. The word "kian" means talking about the things happening to people in their lifetime.
我甲知哦，伊个遐尼歹运，伊个有虽然讲一世人遐尼坎坷，个有拄到一个贵人呐。这个贵人就是八仙内面有一个叫做曹国舅，曹国舅的阿姊哦，曹太后，伫伊遐摆去用台戏的时阵，甲伊救，因才一家毋免遐尼落济，伊也免死。
Because of his outstanding talent, and after going through turmoil in the officialdom of our bureaucracy, he had hardly been proud of himself, and he almost died because of his poetic talent. Because of some poems he wrote, he had to suffer a lot because people misunderstood what he was writing. But fortunately, one of the 8 immortal saints, the prince's maternal uncle, the royal uncle Tsai, his sister was the emperor's mother, and she was the one who rescued him from death.
伊个三个，吼，伊三个某囝呢，内面上了解伊的迄个王朝云呢，就是红莲过来轮回。
And his concubine, Wang Chaoyun, the person who understood him the most, the one who knows him best, was the baby girl that he saved during his previous life.
咱看下一句，这就是苏东坡的一个真有名的句，就是迄个水调歌头内面讲但愿人长久，千里共婵娟这故事差不多在座的咱人都应该拢捌听过，这个是东坡的诗句。这首诗句伫怀念的小弟苏辙，希望讲虽然两个人伊遐尼咧，会当伫中秋节咧，拢总做伙来欣赏迄个山上的艺术。
So the next is a poem also by Su Tongpo, 但愿人长久，千里共婵娟。In English, it means, may we all be blessed with longevity, and though that we are far apart, we can still be able to share the beauty of the moon together during the Mid-Autumn Festival.
安尼咱过来看，咱过继续来看另外一个真出名的轮回的故事因这个苏东坡因真有名，伊个有一个三八的遐尼 close 的朋友黄庭坚嘛真有名这个黄庭坚咱讲一门白囝三四客，就是苏东坡因白仔囝，千古文章四大家的因白仔囝佮加一个黄庭坚。
So another person in the history of Chinese literature who talks about his past life is Wang Tingji, who is a person that is younger than Su Tongpo, but in the Chinese saying, which says that the father and the son are the 3 masters of wordsmith, and an essay through the age belong to the 4 great masters. These 4 great refers to Su Tongpo, his 2 sons, and also Huang Tingjian.
因这上好诶，反正真 close 啦迄个文学的迄个作业话讲差甲真远拢是中国历史上的有名的另外一个有名的人物就对了
啦。Su Tongpo and Wang Tingjian has very close relationship, and also their the talent that they shared were also at almost the same level.
咱看下一个投影片。咱来讲吼，这个黄庭坚，黄庭坚是真有名的人吼，伊嘛是一个24号内面的一个号主。
Huang Tingjian, also known as Huang San Hu in the Song dynasty, he was a very famous person in the history of Chinese literature, and he was used in poetry, and he was one of the 24 filial exemplars.
伊是每一工拢家己处理四大人的迄个大便小便，唔捌咧使用人去处理。
And when his mother was already old, Huang Tingjian was the one who personally handles his mother's defecations.
讲家老爸老母拼屎了，才知影讲到底爸母迄个身体有健康啊无健康。
The reason for him doing that himself without asking any help from their servants is that he says that if we can see the dirt from our parents, we can also see if they are healthy or not.
伊伫写伊的册、写伊的文的时阵捌讲过讲，伊的前世人是一个有学问的姑娘。
And in one of his books, he has once stated that in his past life, he was a educated lady.
但毋是讲伊死来就知影伊的前世人毋是，但是就是由一碗芹菜面就知影。
By doing so, it doesn't mean that he knew his previous life when he was born. He just knew of it because it was comprehended by the revelation of a bowl of celery noodles.
伊经过的情形是安尼吼，因为伊真友好吧吼，因为友好，伊才会去体会到这项代志。
The situation was like this. Huang Tingjian was a person who was very filial, and it was because of his filial piety that he was able to discover his past life.
伊拄20几岁，拄考到进士以后咧，中央政府派去咱今仔日还佫有即个地名，一个所在安徽蚌河即个所在做地州。地州就敢若咱即摆所说 governor 啦，还是讲迄个 mayor 管迄个所在迄个头人。
When he was 26 years old, after becoming a successful candidate in the highest imperial examinations, he was sent by the government to Wuhu under the jurisdiction of China's Anhui province, a province that we can still see in the map of China today.
有一天伊拄去遐做即个官无偌久的时阵有一天伊咧困日头，伊梦着讲家己行出迄个办公迄个所在的大门，行到有一个人家遐，行到一户人家遐，迄个门口咧有一个老阿婆徛伫一个讲道头前。迄个讲道顶悬的摆一碗芹菜面，这老阿婆咧，伊手举一支香，安尼拿话讲，查某囝，转来食面哦。
So one day, when Wang Ting was taking a nap after lunch, he dreamed that he walked out of the gate of the government office and walked towards a house. At the door of the house, there stood an old lady, and the old lady was standing before an offering table. On the offering table, there was a bowl of celery noodle, and the old woman was holding incense in her hand, and she was shouting, "My daughter, come back and have your noodles."
这黄庭坚真爱食芹菜面，听到讲有芹菜面通食咧，这黄庭坚不知不觉就甲迄个芹菜面旁来就食落去啊。
And since the celery noodle was one of the favorite of Wang Tingjian, so he just went to the table and took the bowl and ate the noodle.
食完以后咧，佫行转去伊嘅办公嘅所在，转去到遐。
So after eating the noodle, he went back and walked back to the government office.
等伊困伫倒困精神以后咧，梦中诶代志敢若正经诶共款，敢若目睭金金看到共款。伊诶喙内面咧，佫有芹菜诶味啊，伊感觉足奇怪，那连味感。
So when he woke up from his nap that day, he could still vividly remember what happened in his dream, and he can still have the taste of celery that inside his mouth. So it made him really puzzled what happened.
等到第二天吼，佫困伫倒诶时阵咧，伊佫感觉做梦，佫梦去讲伊佫行去甲查理迄个所在，喙内面咧佫早sáng有迄个芹菜味。
So during his nap on the next day, he still had a dream, and in the dream, he came to the same place as yesterday with the smell of the celery still lingering in his mouth.
伊行一个段精神哦，就赶紧爬起来，甲衫穿好，然后对昨日吼迄梦中吼最后记的迄个路一直行去，最后行到一户人家门口咧，就甲昨日梦中迄个门完全相同，迄个样子、迄个字完全相同，我就甲敲门诶时阵，敲行出来，开门诶咧。正就是昨日梦中所看见的老阿婆啊。
So he woke up and he was so surprised that he had the same dream, and he got up quickly and put on his clothes, and he walked along the road the way that he walked through the day before and during that day on his dream. And by following the path, he finally came to the door of the house that looked the same as the one he saw in his dream. After knocking on the door, the person who answered the door was exactly the same old lady that he saw in his dream the day before.
黄庭坚就甲伊问讲我昨日哦伫梦中食物的代志讲互伊听。
So Wang Tingchen told the old lady about his dream the day before and about what he did in the dream, that he ate a bowl of celery noodle.
即老阿婆老阿嬷就甲伊说啊，讲我昨日是阮查某囝死去的日子，做记。
So the old lady told him that yesterday it was the death anniversary of my daughter.
因为在生的时阵上爱食就是芹菜面。所以每一摆咧，若做记的时阵，我拢会拜一碗芹菜面，叫伊转来食面。
And because the celery noodle was the favorite of my daughter when she was alive, so the old lady would offer a bowl of celery noodle every year during his anniversary and ask her to come back to eat the noodles.
黄庭坚就问迄老阿嬷、老阿婆讲：恁查某囝死去偌久啊？老阿婆甲应讲：死去26年啊。
So Wang Tingchen asked the old lady, how long had your daughter passed away? The old lady said that my daughter has passed away already 26 years.
离眼足拄好诶，昨日正是黄庭坚诶生日。
So with what a coincidence, Wang Tingchen thought, because the day before it was also his 26th birthday.
黄庭坚家己本人嘛，最爱食芹菜煮诶面，最爱食芹菜面。所以感觉这离眼足奇怪，就甲迄个阿婆加问讲因查某囝到底是啥物款情形。
So Wang Tingchen also loves to eat celery noodle. So he was so astonished, and he asked about the situation of the old woman's daughter and about different things of the daughter when she was still alive.
阿婆老阿嬷就甲伊个黄庭坚说啊，即讲因查某囝在生的时阵非常爱读册 读册文书难的啦，真正爱读册，敢若爱读册，无想要看手啦。而且呢，食菜幸福个是友好。
So the old lady says her daughter loved to read books when she was still alive, and that she was a vegetarian, and she believed in Buddhism, and she was a very filial daughter.
你安尼，伊安尼活到26个时阵哦，看一个病哦，就那死去咯。要死去以前，甲伊老母的手揪着，甲伊老母说讲：妈妈妈妈，你毋通艰苦心。我虽然无去啊，我会转来看你。
So one day when she was only 26 years old, she just fell ill and died. But before she died, the daughter told her mother that she would definitely come back to visit her.
伊讲伊一定会转来看伊老母，即个阿婆啊，搁比伊个房厝内面吼有一个大迄个茶柜，讲因查某囝吼在生的时阵所看的册拢锁伫迄个橱仔内底，敢若毋知影讲锁匙放喺倒咯。
So the old woman also pointed Wang Tingjian a large wooden cabinet in the house and said that all the books that her daughter read throughout her life were locked inside the cabinet. But the question is, she doesn't know where the keys are. That is why the old woman cannot open the cabinet of her daughter.
讲即个锁匙咧，无锁匙吧，所以即个茶柜无法度拍开。讲到即个锁匙的时阵即个黄庭坚忽然间记得讲，因摆锁匙是放喺倒位啊，而且呢，佫甲迄个锁匙摕出来，拍开即个茶柜。
But as Wang Tingjian listened and heard about the key, he suddenly stood up and remembered where the keys were placed and found the key, and he was even able to open the wooden cabinet.
伫迄个茶柜内底伊发现到足侪即个姑娘，即个查某囡仔所写的文章。
So when he opened the cabinet, he saw a lot of manuscripts in it, and he was so surprised that there were so many articles written by the girl.
伊看一个再惊一个，原来伊每一摆参加考试所写的文章，拢装伫即寡迄个文章的草稿内底，而且一字都无差，逐字拢共款，啊，咩字句嘛共款。
So after reading the articles, she was so shocked because it turned out that the articles he wrote every time he took the exam were in these manuscripts inside the cabinet, and the words inside were all the same.
到这时阵黄庭坚已经完全清楚啊，即个爱读册的姑娘，顶世无法度去考试，即世黄庭坚即世去互考掉咯。
So Wang Tingjian suddenly realized that the lady had been studying a lot, and during this lifetime, he was able to take the exam that the daughter was not able to.
那么这位老阿嬷呢，就是顶一世的老母。
And the old lady, the old woman, was his mother during his previous lifetime.
看到一寡册本，看到一寡文章即个黄庭坚有个涂骹甲伊讲阿嬷你就是我前世的老母，所以伊甲即个阿嬷呢、阿婆咧带转去伊的迄个办公，迄个政府的办公的所在，再来甲伊饲甲即个老阿嬷过身，老阿婆过身。
So after realizing that the old woman was his mother in his previous life, Wang Tingjian knelt down and called him mother, and he brought his mother back to to stay with him in his government office, and took care of her for the rest of her life.
伊安怎对待伊即世人的妈妈，就是 三层安尼对待即个前世人即个妈妈即个婆啊。
So how good he treated his present life mother, he also treated his previous life mother.
三顿啦，共款安尼饲吼，嘛共阮大边小边共款嘛是拢伊家己个经历。
So he treated his mother very well, and prepared his 3 meals, and even took care of his defecations and urinations.
后来吼，伊家己即个黄庭坚家己本人呢嘛是食菜。
And later on, Wang Tingjian himself also took the path of vegetarianism and also studied Buddhism.
所以清朝过几百年以后咧，清朝即个宋 dynasty 离咱即马差不多先100年，啊，到几百年以后，迄个清朝咧吼，有一个文学家袁枚，读到即个故事以后咧，伊就真感慨，伊有一个心得，伊说咧，册本毋是甲用在怪讲读伤少啦，吼。册到即摆咱要读已经伤晏啦，咱即世人要读咧是要后世人要用的啦。
So the Song Dynasty was about 100 years ago from today, and during the Qing Dynasty, a writer named Yuan Mei realized after reading these records and said that it is not when it comes to practical application. I regret that I have not read much and lack knowledge, but book is not too late to read in this lifetime.
下一页，这张相片就是黄庭坚的像吼，应该是画了真准，差不多是这款的面貌。
So that was the picture of Wang Tingjian.
后来咱个看，就是这就是黄庭坚的毛笔字。
And these were calligraphies of Wang Tingjian.
后来下一张呢，就是黄庭坚所抄的部经。
So this one is the handwritten also by Wang Tingjian when he was copying the different Buddhist sutras.
所以咱今仔日像我所说这两个轮回的故事吼，拢是用这个历史上出名的人来说明讲轮回是真实的、无虚的。
So tonight has gave an example about famous historical figures to illustrate the truth, to tell us that reincarnation is real.
咱中国咱台湾国家迄个教育研究伊有编一本字典对于轮回安尼甲解说。
So in the Great Dictionary of the Education compiled by the National Academy for Educational Research explains reincarnation as follows.
讲轮回咧，就是表示讲人的灵魂寄居伫个当世身体之前咧，捌寄居伫个别人，还是讲别个动物身躯顶悬。
So reincarnation means that human souls resides in the body of another person or even another animal before it resides in the body of the current world.
那么伫即世生命结束以后咧，咪同款会转到入其他的人，还是动物的肉体中啊。
And after the end of this life in the current world, it will also be transferred into the body of another human or animal.
众生咧，短短生死于三界六道中啊，敢若车轮共款，所以叫做轮回。
And sentient beings are born and die in the 3 realms and the 6th path. It is like a wheel, forever, never ending. So it is called reincarnation.
所以这个字典内面佫讲到，唔是敢若讲到轮回咯，讲到六道轮回。那么这就是另外一个阶段的迄个道理咯。咱今仔日无讲这个。
So this plenary talks about the sixth path of reincarnation, and this is another stage of morality.
那么咱修道咧上终的目标就是要脱离六道轮回，希望咱大家会当一世修一世行。
And the ultimate goal of cultivation, of Tao, is that we wish to escape from the cycle of reincarnation, that we can use this present life to cultivate ourselves and will be successful to become a saint after this lifetime.
那么修道虽然非常的辛苦，但是这款的成果若做会到，是不是非常圆满？
Even though that it is very difficult and very tiring to be a cultivator, but if we can succeed after our cultivation, isn't it a very good thing to do?
幸好今仔日因为时间的关系，准备了毋是真正充足、真正圆满。讲了啦，较无圆满的所在咧，请九点禅师甲点禅师原谅，请各位道亲包涵。 祝各位道亲大家身体健康，事事平安。
So because of the short notice, our Transfer has very short time to prepare for this lecture. If there is anything lacking, we hope that our Zhou Tian Transfer and Tian Tian Transfer may pardon us, and hope everybody will also forgive us for any mistakes that was done. Our Tian Transfer is wishing us good health, and that everything we wish for may come true.
咱就到这结班。